Welcome to Youniversal Theory, where the goal is to find a common language between the abstract and concrete. We are the unorthodox representation of physics and metaphysics. During the time that we have with you, we will discuss all that is potential and equally possible. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Trent.
And together, we are Youniversal Theory. We welcome you on this journey of scientific and metaphysical exploration, and we hope that any information that is conveyed or professed by either of us is of the utmost importance, value, and of practical use in your everyday lives.
Listeners want to know more about Youniversal Theory and how it was brought to light. I have a few questions for you guys today, and I promise I won't take up much of your time. I know you are busy guys.
Anything for the fans.
Yeah, anything for the fans. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the fans, so ask away.
So first of all, can you just let people know who you are and where you come from?
So I'm from Ohio. I am Ohio born and raised. I have lived in a few other locations, but that's mainly where I come from. And no, I do not like Ohio State football, if you're wondering, because I don't watch foosball, Bobby. My name is Jordan. The rest of my name I will not tell you as of yet. I'm an MC and I'm a philosopher.
Very cool.
So I am Trent Radford. I come from Ohio, a small town called Mansfield. I had a pretty modest upbringing and didn't quite fit in, but enjoyed my life there with my sisters and my parents, and that's where I'm from.
How do you know Jordan?
So I met Jordan in prison. I had fallen down a certain path, and my mother passed away, and I started to question things in life and started to have a nihilistic point of view, and got kicked out of my house and was living with my sister, and I was working 2 jobs, but I was sold some ecstasy to somebody, and he had the police with him. So I ended up in prison, and I met Jordan there. So, for me, it was, one of the best things that could have happened. But yeah, I met him in prison, and it wasn't even, where I originally went. I transferred for a hardship to get closer to a prison in Dayton. And then from Dayton, that was closing down and turning into a women's prison. So then I transferred to Madison and met Jordan there.
So how do you know Trent?
I know Trent because I was incarcerated in Ohio State Penitentiary, and I met him there. He had relocated from another institution, and we kind of bumped into each other in passing on the yard, as they would call it, which is like a designated area for inmates to walk around when they have free time. And I know a lot of people think, oh, well, you're in prison, you have free time all the time. It's like, not really. None of it's free because it costs us our lives and everything is regulated. So in that small amount of time, we got to meet each other, and we just grew from there.
Is the yard outdoors?
Yes, the yard is outdoors, and that's where we met, on the yard. But we never shared a dorm. But he would come to my dorm periodically, or I'd come to his dorm and call out from the yard, or send somebody into his dormitory and say, hey, will you go get the big, tall, handsome guy that's super smart? And everybody knows who that is.
So what is your podcast about, and how long have you been doing it?
Well, we just recently started the podcast, to be honest. I mean, we've had the idea of it in the works for years. And when we were together in prison, building on these concepts, we talked about coming home and inspiring the world and doing things for the benefit of humanity and advancing our own consciousness and understanding of the universe. And I talked mostly about metaphysics, and I would discuss it with him, and he was into physics, and he was talking about going home and getting into college, which he did all of those things, and now he's very successful at what he does because of it. And we just built the concept from there, and we're just now recently starting it. So if you're just now tapping in, we have 4 or 5 episodes down, maybe more by now, by the time you see this.
So the podcast is about bringing the left and right brain together. It's about not trying to just understand things from one side or the other. It's about having a holistic point of view.
Okay,
But
great.
what was the second half of that question?
How long have you been doing it?
Oh, we've been doing the podcast for a few months now. We started it at the beginning of 2023 of this year, but it's been a concept since essentially Jordan and I met each other back in 2011.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's been something that's been formulating, and before it wasn't a podcast. The idea originally was a school, and because of technology and things that have changed since 2011, as Jordan and I talked and as our lives kind of grew, we decided that, hey, a podcast could actually be beneficial to the world as well, because it's a way to get millions of people's attention.
What do you specialize in?
So I specialize in the left brain. I specialize in the math and the physics and that side of the equation. Jordan and I both bring a healthy dose of both sides, but my path was, academia and going to school and getting my degree. And so that's more of what I specialize in. I can be a little more pessimistic in our conversations and in our debates, as in, well, where's the data? I'm not going to believe it unless I can see the data. And that's really what we're trying to bring to the viewers, is this information that is data driven.
I would say that I'm more of a general practitioner, so I specialize in generality, meaning I study a wide range of things and I know a little bit about a lot of things, and sometimes a lot about a little as well, the inverse. So I would say I specialize in life is what I would say, but metaphysics mostly.
What are you passionate about?
I'm passionate about a lot of things. I'm passionate about my family. I'm passionate about success, really is the main driver. I think about, I don't ever want anybody to say that they can outwork me. I'm the type of person that when I get up to when I go to bed, I want to be doing something, because in this world, there are doers, and then there are people that watch the people doing things. And that is what I'm passionate about, is about getting up and accomplishing goals.
Evolution, creativity, inspiration. I'm passionate about life, and life is all of those things. That's why we started the podcast out with the 7 principles, because we want to teach people the fundamentals to life so that they can use it to become more advanced in this dynamic, this dichotomy of things existing together.
So what is your motivation for doing the podcast?
Kind of similar to, my answer to the last question. I'm motivated by the divine impulse of life. It's part of my natural instinct. So for whatever reason, whether it's in this lifetime, in the combination of genes between my mother and father and their predecessors, and the archetype that they built for me to be the way that I am in the environmental setting that I was in, or a past life maybe, or previous existences that aligned me with this natural impulse of universality. I would say it's just instinct for me. It's not something that I'm doing because I'm forcing myself to do it, or I feel like I'm going to make money off of it, or I want prestige and popularity. It's just always been my instinctive nature.
Yeah, so my motivation for doing the podcast, I would say, is being a weird kid and having mystical experiences and not knowing what they were, and not understanding what was happening and not being able to reach out to anybody and talk about these types of things. So because I didn't have that infrastructure, I was just kind of left to fumble through it on my own. And I didn't do so great, right? I ended up being addicted to drugs. I was addicted to heroin for a little while, but opiates were the main thing that, I used to numb myself from these experiences. And then, when my mother died, it caused even more of, like I said, a nihilistic approach to life. And I really wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do or if I wanted to be alive. And going to prison was the best thing that could have happened to me, because it forced me to look back on my life and then look forward and decide at that critical point who I was going to be, what I was going to be. And it gave me time to read books. And I found things in these books where it was like, wow, I experienced that as a kid. Where was this information when I was a kid? And after meeting Jordan, and we talked about getting this information out there, it became a goal from there. And that's my motivation, is to have information and an infrastructure there for other people who are going through these same things, that handled these things the way that I did, by abusing drugs or by numbing themselves in some way. And I have a daughter, and I'd hate for my daughter to experience these things and have to go through the same things that I went through in order to get the clarity that I have.
So what is your vision for the future?
Yeah, my vision for the future is to see these two sides of the same equation work together, to see mystics and scientists come together and start to create new magic, right? New science. When we call something magic, it is just the ignorance of the science behind it. And I hope to eradicate a lot of that, which would allow for us to start traveling interstellarly, or building smaller objects, or understanding the nature of our reality that much better. There are brilliant people, plenty of people out there much smarter than I am in the academic world, but they just don't have a grasp on the mystical side of things or the spiritual side of things. So it takes them that much longer to get to an answer, that if it was two sides working together, we would be evolving and moving much faster. And actually, I think we're at a critical point where the science is going, it's kind of forcing these two sides to come back together, and that's what Jordan and I are hoping to reconcile.
My vision for the future is the evolution of humanity to the point where we can comprehend the nature of existence and more effectively interact with it. We can use metaphysical and physical principles to build ships to travel interstellarly, or computers that take away all the tedious work that man does, so that he has more time to do other things that assist with his advancement and his intellectuality and refinement of emotions and expression and connectivity. And me and Trent just want to be a part of that process, and we want to help bridge the gap in this present state of affairs that the world is in. We want to be a critical or a hub to bring these two together. So I see everything unfolding the way that it's supposed to, and us just playing our position as, being very instrumental in the evolution of the collective.
Do you feel this is beneficial for yourself and for others?
Yeah, I do. I believe that this gives me a positive way to exert my energy. This gives me a way to interact with others. Does it mean that I enjoy it all the time? No, because I'm an introvert, and sometimes I just want my own space. But I'm also a person who likes to conquer the day, and this allows me to do both. As far as others, I hope that this is the best thing for others. I think that that's the main reason that we pour so much passion into this, and why it is a tireless effort, is for, like I just said, that 14-year-old kid or that individual who is lost, and we are trying to help them find themselves and spare them as much pain in the process as possible.
feel like it's beneficial for others because if you know the principles of life, then you can understand life better and you can maneuver through life easier. Things will get tougher because you're a more advanced organism, so you require a more advanced environmental setting. But ultimately, I think that what I do and what Trent does benefit us, and it does benefit humanity because we're teaching things to people that they normally overlook. And if you are consciously aware of it, then it will be beneficial for all of us because it's beneficial for each individual.
So, what brought you and Trent together, and what made you guys think that this would be a good podcast? I know you mentioned that you and Trent met in prison, but what actually brought you two together for this idea of the podcast?
Once again, that's kind of a hard question to answer because there's so many different things that could have brought us together. Is it random, or is there some type of algorithm that brought these two organisms together to create this idea, to build this philosophy and build this podcast and inspire people to become more advanced in their evolution? I mean, some might argue it's an evolutionary requirement. Some might say that it was random. Some might say that it was divine. I would say that me and him connected because our energies matched and we had similar goals and similar perspectives and similar intentions. And because of that, we were aligned, and, now we're here.
So for the first part of that question, what brought us together? I would say destiny. I would say the sum total of events. But it's, from a personal level, it is a similar mindset. In prison, you generally don't find people with a similar mindset. Either everybody has the same mindset as you, and that's savagery, or nobody has the same mindset as you. And that was kind of how I did the first 80%, 75% of my 2 years, was not really running into people that I could connect with. And then when I started, reading literature and finding books, I started running into more people. And that was my way of kind of like a litmus test of judging that person. I would ask, what they read or what they do with their day in prison. And that would give me a good judge of character. And when I ran into Jordan, he had a lot of great books, and we had a lot of great conversation. And from then on, I kind of felt like I had always known him, even though I had just met him. So when you meet someone like that, that, especially in a place like prison, that there's something more to that story, right? That story's still being written. And then as far as, sorry, what was the second part of that question?
What made you guys think that this would be a great podcast?
Well, it's the fact that, like I said, where science is at right now, it is most necessary. And the fact that if we could help one person not be as lonely, not be as lost, avoid them from, using the drugs out now, which is fentanyl, will kill you. If that is one person that we can help, then that's good enough for me. But I think that this podcast is going to help a lot of people, and it's also going to help the next generation of scientists become mystics, and the next generation of mystics become more scientific.
What is your favorite thing about the podcast?
My favorite thing about the podcast is the fact that I get to reach people that I would never generally reach. Because I'm an introvert, when I'm out, I'm not really looking for conversation. I'm just doing what I have to do and then get home. But the podcast allows me to reach out into the internet and touch people's lives that I never would have touched if I didn't have these tools. So I'm, blessed to be able to do that.
The fact that I can have a business and a job where I can do what I love to do, and to theorize and hypothesize and philosophize and break things down scientifically and collect data and do research, and I have my best friend to do it with. he has a great mind. So being in close proximity to him, it sharpens my intellect. It sharpens my existence, and I do the same with him. So we're evolving together to do this together. We're like a singular organism, just like the brand. You see, it's the yin and the yang, and you see these two minds connecting, and then, it creates a centrality or a singularity, So it's kind of like he's like my other half, cerebrally. I'm the right brain, he's the left brain. When we're together, I feel like we're unstoppable.
What are your goals in life and for your podcast?
Well, my goal is whatever the sum total of events goal is. So I don't really know what my ultimate goal is, because I don't want to say, because I don't know what is inevitably going to happen. But I would say on a microcosm within that, my goal is to, reach enough people so that it becomes infectious and it spreads like a virus that's healthy for you. And people want to learn more, and people find it doesn't have to be us. It's just like, if I can inspire you, or we can inspire, an individual that can go out and then they can search for this information in other locations, and then they start to comprehend it and apply it to their lives and pass it on to other people. And, maybe we make some money off of it to where we can do more things with the podcast, and we can travel, and we can do more extensive research, and eventually have a laboratory, actually do some experiments, and actually, get involved, maybe win a Nobel Peace Prize. The goal is to just expand and refine everything that we're doing and become more advanced beings as we teach others and learn from others, and we reciprocate. So that's really the goal.
So, yeah, my goals in life are to become a millionaire. And I know that's funny, but that really is a goal of mine. I'm going to hustle till I die. And this isn't going to be the platform on which I think I'm going to do that. This is not for money, right? This podcast is for a message. I do think that, as the brand grows, there will be room for us to make some revenue and for us to make this our full-time job. So instead of having 2 full-time jobs, I would just have one job that I worked, full-time. But that is the goal, is to grow this brand into something that is a common word in the mouth of any individual in the world.
Don't talk to me, it's off to me, assault police. The archer screeds, my carpentry is carpeting for all of these. False MCs, I chalk the scene, I'm Charlie Sheen. I darken dreams, the carpet bleeds, my pulpit leads. A scar ring your whole face like a Carter scene. I go hard cause the car to me. You ain't hard as he, or the yard hate. Bar hate, it's the Nazarene. Choking line with a main, I'm a martyr king. Yeah, I'm a god, so it's all with me. Pull at your heart, I'm chewing at your arteries. Damn, for the artistry, the artist bleeds. I'm martyring your darling. It's all with me, get lost at sea. Shout the priest, stomp the beast. I do not play, it's off.